We're going to be talking about how I've been combating any negative self-talk and have found true peace amongst the chaos. I feel like this is a big one because there have been many times where absolutely the devil could have gotten me in a chokehold, and he has many times. Another day, another day. Yes. No one's here. Oh, wait, there is someone here. With what's going on in my life right now, a lot of the focus has been on keeping the negative energy out, keeping the negative mindset out, and getting back into a good fitness routine, taking care of the temple that houses the Holy Spirit, my body, getting my nutrition straight, getting my friendships and community dialed in, stepping into leadership and jumping and leaping into faith, and really just allowing this complete transformation from God. And it has been a wild journey. So we're gonna do some upper body, do some light upper body, because we're just getting back into it. I don't lift heavy anymore on my upper body. I used to be stacking 25 pounds when I was doing overhead presses. I've done a 40-pound weight. That's how crazy I used to be. I don't do that anymore, obviously, but I built up boulder shoulders. It was good during bodybuilding days, but now I stick to a lot of the lighter weights, mostly because I just want to tone my arms. And instead of focusing on heavier weights to build the muscle, I'm doing higher reps, lower weights. When I continue to do so much of it at a faster pace, it can actually put my body in a more cardiovascular state, as long as I'm doing some HIIT training in between. So the goal is right now to pick up the heart rate while I'm doing this. So it's going to be a little bit of HIIT training plus upper body. And yeah, I'll kind of show you what I usually do. I still need to warm up, kind of get the body going. My butt is sore from yesterday's workout. So negative self-talk. This is much more difficult for women than it is for men. Now hear me out. This is not to bring a comparison to men or women, not to say men are better. It's just we live a lot in our heads, okay? A lot of our strength comes from our mental, our intuition, our ability to think more deeply on things, whereas a lot of men are more action forward and usually have some, what we women like to call unwarranted confidence. I don't know if you guys have ever met a guy who was like really not that cute, didn't have the best body, but like yet he had an unmatched level of confidence, and somehow that either worked for him or worked against him. But most of the time it was like, you're just like, how do you have this level of confidence? I wish I had that level of confidence. A lot of men do not struggle with it as much as we women do. We struggle with it because that's just the way our mind works. We have a larger hippocampus, which is a part of our brain that houses our emotions, it houses our memory. Because we have a larger portion of that in our brain, it also means that we are more susceptible to outside stimuli that actually causes us to repeat and live a cycle of negative self-talk. So it actually requires us a lot more fortitude and refinement for us to be able to navigate those thoughts, decipher them, and separate them from what is actually reality. This also means that when we are interpreting things, we often have a tendency to exaggerate certain circumstances or experiences further than they actually are. This is why a lot of men think that we're overly emotional, or we amplify a certain situation because it feels more enhanced to us. This is an example. Dylan and I, when we would get into arguments, even if it's been like months since we've argued, if we go through a period of arguing for 2 days out of the week, I will start to feel like it has been forever that we've been in this state. It feels like we just can't get along and we can't figure this out. And I would over exaggerate certain situations and make them bigger than what they actually were. Now, it takes a lot of humility to admit that I was amplifying issues, but the reality is my mind interpreted it as such, as if those situations were a lot more frequent. And it also, because my emotions were so strong, it felt like everything was a lot more amplified. I had to really take a step back and realize that my mind was programmed like this, or that it was built like this. And instead of being angry at the fact that we are more emotional than men, I accepted it and saw it as a powerful tool that we can use, because when it comes to things like trusting our intuition and allowing our emotions to positively impact our decisions in the day to day, it is a very powerful tool. It is great when we want to connect with people. This is why women can connect with more people, usually better than men. We can resonate and connect more emotionally and tug at the strings of other human beings. Even children, right? Little boys, little girls. There's a study, and if you read this in The Male Brain or The Female Brain, they're both really, really good books. She talks about the natural ability to communicate and connect with other people is actually very much engraved in women who have the normal balance of estrogen and testosterone. That means they don't have a hormonal imbalance. They were born with a normal amount of having more estrogen than they do testosterone. Now, if that's the case, they're more hyper aware of the world around them. They require a lot more positive feedback because we are much more impacted by outside stimuli than men. This is why little girls, they love to hear about how beautiful they are, how cute they are. We want to be complimented and loved, and it's because that's part of our brain that is just the way we're programmed. Again, not a bad thing, right? Oh, I need to do some HIIT training. Okay. Not a bad thing. It just means that we have to be aware of this so that when we're seeking love, we're not trying to conform our ways into the way men seek love, and instead accept the way that we women need love and require it. Okay. We are taking up. Y'all, I got like this tiny little, layer of fat. But I'm not mad at it. I'm gonna do some tricep push downs. So I'm just gonna keep doing these until fatigue. And then I'm gonna do the other side until fatigue. Anyways, as far as overcoming negative self-talk, now that you know a little bit more of the biology of us women, when you are trying to overcome negative self-talk, one of the quickest ways that you can overcome it is by immersing yourself in gratitude. It's crazy because I actually just read something in Psalms where King David is talking about when he feels like he is doubting God's presence, he feels like he is questioning whether or not God is with him, he remembers to resort back to all that God has done, all of the positive things that God has done in his life. And so it just goes back to some of the mindset things that, it's funny because I say this all the time. I feel like the Bible is actually one of the best personal development books that you could have if you can interpret and apply it. And you do that through wisdom, you do it through spiritual maturity. What you need to do is when you are starting to spiral into a negative mindset, first of all, you need to recognize that that is not from the highest version of you, that is not from God. It is when you decide to allow those negative self-thoughts to cycle in your brain, it's actually you conceding with the devil. Now, as much as that sounds dramatic, sometimes we need to hear it because it truly is allowing the devil in and pushing God out, right? So the only way we can combat that negative self-talk is by overflowing it and overpowering it with more positive thoughts and allowing yourself to immerse yourself in gratitude. Because I guarantee that if you were to think about your life right now, I guarantee you have at least a handful of things to be grateful for. It could be something simple as I took another breath today. I woke up in a nice soft bed. My friend called me today to check in. I have community. Whatever it is, I promise you, if you were to sift through the dirt in your life, you will find little bits and flecks of gold that you can hold on to. And eventually, if you can learn how to program your mind to stop the negative self-talk before it begins to cycle and spiral into this downward feeling, you begin to train yourself to operate like that. Your mind will eventually learn to pick that up faster and move through it a lot more quickly. All right, we're gonna burn through this, finish this workout. I'm gonna try and do some tricep pull downs, but I think I need to fully exhaust my arms here because I still got a lot more to go. Burn, burn, baby, burn. Okay, so this is one of the strategies that I actually use when I seem to be kind of lingering over one particular thing that seems to upset me every time I talk about it. This is a process I'm going to teach you that doesn't necessarily need to be done with paper and pen every single time, because I promise you, the more that you begin to see how the process works and applies to your life, you can actually start to do this all within your head, and the time period in which it actually requires you to work through these things shortens. So it's just like building any type of skill, right? It takes time, effort, energy. And then as soon as you continue the repetitions of it, eventually the time period of which it takes you to actually get from point A to point B becomes significantly shorter. What I do and this is like a method that I actually read through Ask and It Is Given, super, super good book by Esther and Jerry Hicks, if you guys want to check it out. I actually have an entire book list of all the books that I have read that have changed my life. So if you guys are interested, that is in my Amazon storefront. But this is something where if you are lingering over a certain topic over and over again, the problem is you have a negative perspective of that experience, event, person, whatever it is that you're experiencing. The way that you shift that, once again, is to overpower it with a more positive thought process, right? But sometimes you have trouble seeing the positive in these things that have caused you so much pain and suffering. And so the way you can do that is by writing down the story that you're actually telling yourself over and over. Write it down to your fullest degree. I mean, vent, rage, be very honest. Like, that mother lover hurt my heart. Write down everything. Allow yourself to be in the space to release that. Then I want you to begin to dissect it. When you do this, it's going to be how you customize the story and the narrative that you tell yourself, like basic storytelling. I want you to draw a line in the middle, and what you're going to do is the negative talk that is on one side, those negative emotions, experiences, and feelings that you have, put it all on one side, and on the right hand, you're going to recreate that story sentence by sentence by sentence. For example, you're saying this man broke your heart and he cheated on you, right? Now you guys are no longer together, you live by yourself. So he broke your heart and he cheated on you. Okay, that's a pretty bad traumatic experience. Now, if you were to rewrite that story, what you can tell yourself is the positive that came from that experience, right? I learned not that no man can be trusted, because that's defeating a negative with a negative, and that's actually putting you in a more hurtful place than a positive one. But instead say, I'm so glad that he cheated on me so that I was forced out of a relationship that actually wasn't aligned with my true purpose. Something like that, right? Understanding that every negative thing that has happened in our lives actually yields a much more positive result if you choose to see the gold in that perspective. We're getting a little burnt here. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit more. So the thing with stories is that it doesn't matter what has happened in your life, you have the opportunity and the mental flexibility to actually rewrite any story that is created in your mind, because things that were held in the past, they only continue to live through your mind by repetition of repeating that story over and over in your head. Now, if you were to change that story and change the narrative, regardless of the justified feeling or non-justified feeling you get from doing so, you choosing a more positive perspective on those negative experiences is going to benefit you overall. I know that sometimes we want to live in these negative stories because it makes us feel better, right? The whole victim mindset, the woe is me. Like, I know because I lived that. There were stories in my head that I did not want to let go of. It became part of my personality. And when people asked, I would always resort back to these negative experiences I had in my life. It was almost like a default to get people to relate to me more, either sympathize with me, or maybe it was a way for me to kind of explain my effed up character. I don't know. But regardless, if I continue to live out these stories, I will be hurting myself in the end. It doesn't benefit you to hold on to these stories, regardless if you were at fault or somebody else was at fault. It really doesn't matter. What matters is not the past, but how you're going to be living out the rest of your life, your future. All right, we're gonna finish here in the yoga studio. If you wanna know why I don't like upper body days, because I really feel like I don't get a good workout simply because I don't sweat as much. And I know that that's so silly. We're gonna do a final bicep burnout. And then I think I'm gonna end it on the bike. Do I want to? I freaking hate the bike. We'll see. Final bicep burnout and tricep burnout. And we're just gonna go until we get freaking tired. So what you're doing when you're rewriting this story is you're allowing yourself to send some love to these experiences that you've had in your life that were seen or perceived otherwise in a negative state. Now, remember, when you first had this story implanted in your mind, this happened during a negative time period in your life, which is why you have a negative story attached to it. Now, with your more refined and mature mind, where you understand that you are in control of your stories, you can easily rewrite the story to create a more fulfilling and positive outlook of your life. Now, like I said, the more you become accustomed to recognizing the spiral that you can easily find yourself in, the more you will be able to recognize it quickly and more effectively you'll be able to work past it. So it's just a simple game of repetition. Kind of like every workout that we're doing, right? Like, I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm doing the same thing over and over, but through repetition, my muscles, they start to remember these movements and they build upon itself. It's like a snowball effect, but of positive thoughts in your mind. So when you do this, really think about the positive parts that have came to be because of that negative experience. And if you really want to take it a step further, you can write all the negative things down, burn that mother lover, like physically burn it with lighter and paper, and keep the positive story and repeat those certain sentences, use of words, verbiage, almost like mantras essentially, and continue to say that in your mind when you feel yourself slipping into a negative space about that certain topic. I promise you, your life will start to feel a lot more light and airy, and you'll start to attract more positive energies within you. Do we want to do the ropes? What time is it? You know what? We're feeling ambitious. We're going to do the ropes really quick, and then we'll come back. But we're just going to do it for a quick moment. It's a little cold out right now, but I think this workout will warm me up. Actually, it's kind of cold. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Let's get it. I just want to do 30 seconds. I'm going to have to count in my head, so I might have to stay silent during this, but we'll see. So, now I've helped you with some of the tools that have worked for me as far as overcoming negative self-talk. As far as peace goes,
I think you guys have an idea of what I'm gonna say. What brings you ultimate peace? And that is trust in a higher thing beyond you, AKA God. Okay, God, Jesus, the Prince of Peace. I will say this over and over. Now, I have done all of the things in the new age, modern, spiritual, all of it. I've done all of it. Okay, I've done the ayahuasca journey. I've done the breath work. There's some things I haven't done, like DMT and combo. I didn't need to go that far. That level of intensity is, I didn't feel like I needed that. But I'm telling you, after all of that, I realize that those modalities are simply a temporary fix, but Jesus and God and true belief and faith in him is what actually brought me peace. Because during these times of uncertainty, which right now, I'm actually, it is so cold. I'm actually experiencing these times of uncertainty. My reliance on God and my default into believing in him and the promise that he's given me is one that I can't even really fully explain until you actually get to know God. That means diving into the Bible, reading, understanding his character, and approaching it with an open mind and actually interpreting it in a way that allows you to connect to our Creator. So when I started to actually learn what God is like and how much he loves us, even though we're sinning, I began to experience what true peace and forgiveness is. There are things in this world that we as humans cannot understand why God or anyone could forgive, right? Some of us have done such horrible things and we feel so much shame and guilt. But when you begin to learn the character of God and you understand that he is not human, meaning to say his level of forgiveness is not like how we understand forgiveness. His ability to love is not like how we understand love. It is unlimited, and us as humans are very limited, right? When you learn about God's forgiveness and how much he actually loves you, you'll start to see that the way that he loves and forgives is beyond human comprehension. And knowing this and choosing to understand that it's not something you can understand actually gives you a sense of peace. And knowing that Jesus and believing that Jesus actually sacrificed himself on the cross so that we can be forgiven for all of our sins, no matter what, that is what saves me and makes me feel so loved and cared for and protected, knowing that he's got my back, knowing that no matter what I do, he will love me, obviously, with the heart and pure intention to continue to be obedient and continue to love him the best of my ability. God knows that we are flawed. He knows that we are. And he doesn't expect us to be perfect by any means. I see a kettlebell. I might just do a few kettlebell swings just because it's here. Let me do it behind this wall just so people can't see me. Last bit. Oh, this is heavy. Girl, you said you weren't gonna do no heavy weights. And here we are doing heavy weights. The thing with peace is if you keep relying on things that are temporary fixes, you will only get a temporary relief. When you seek things in the eternal, AKA God, which has stood the test of time, which has been the number one thing that has stayed consistent for thousands of years, the Bible, God, has not left us since the beginning of time. He is our present, he is our past, our future, he is everything. And so to trust in something eternal that is beyond our understanding gives you a sense of peace, knowing that energy, that entity is the almighty, the all-powerful, the overarching thing in our lives that is stronger than anything you can encounter in this lifetime. Knowing that he's got your back, knowing that God's got your back, I mean, that's a limited resource. That is the power, that is the peace that you can have. So I get excited talking about it because how cool is it that I got the greatest backup in the world? And God is my helper, he is my provider, he is my king, my savior, everything. But he helps me throughout life. And truly, truly, I say unto you, I'm just kidding, no, but seriously, I really feel like if you guys could understand the level of peace by knowing him, you would also agree with me once you discover the true nature of our God. He is instilled in every single one of us. Well, okay, I won't say all of us. There are absolutely children of his that he has to leave for the time being, not because he doesn't love them and not because he doesn't want to see them do better, but because they themselves have rejected him. And he's such a gentleman that he would never force himself upon you. He would never enter the house that you yourself have told him to leave. If you reject him in your life and you're unwilling to receive him, unwilling to repent, unwilling to accept that we are humans and we are flawed and that we actually need Jesus to save us, then he will have to turn away from you, not because he wants to, but because you chose that path. So again, I know people are like, well, sin makes me feel bad, and saying that I'm sinful doesn't feel good. And why would God want that to make me feel bad if he's full of love? Sometimes we actually need a little bit of discipline to live a better life than what we're currently doing. What do you think I'm doing right now? I am suffering for the sake of a greater good. What I'm doing right now is, in a sense, suffering. I'm putting my body through strain, through challenge, through things that it's not used to. But through this process is a process of refinement that is necessary for me to live to my truest potential, which is what God created me for. So discipline actually creates and breeds a lot more freedom in your life than you would expect. Because I apply discipline to my life and my day-to-day, my fitness level is much more in tune, and I could manage a lot more because my body is taken care of. That doesn't just happen overnight, and it doesn't just happen because I do whatever I want. I actually have to stop myself from eating the sugary foods. I have to stop myself from not going to the gym, right? It's all discipline, and it is necessary if we want to live an exemplary life. But a lot of people think that that is punishment and that is suffering. But I'd rather choose to suffer and put myself through this and come out at the end a better person than allow life and the devil to get their hands on me and force me to suffer, right? This is all my choice, but I'm so glad that I chose this. So, whew. All right, that is it, guys. That is my HIIT training, upper body workout, and my life lesson for the day. Whew. Okay, it's kind of cold, so we're gonna go back inside. So grateful you guys chose to spend your time with me. If you guys haven't already, I'm gonna say this with an empty breath, but you know what I'm saying. Please like and subscribe, support my channel. Please, please, please. This is what God has called me to do. And if you feel the messaging, if you resonate with any of it, if any of my content has helped you thus far, okay, or if you just like in the entertainment side of it, please, please, please love and show support through engaging. Give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode. Love you. Mwah.